Welcome back, family, to another episode of the Double Down Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Woodson. And today I have something that we've curated up that's specific for important people that are in different stages of starting their business. Maybe you are about to launch, but you're afraid because you don't know what the future holds. That's okay. We're going to help you out. Maybe you're in your business and you don't know how to get to the next level. You don't know what roadblocks or hurdles or obstacles are coming your way. Or maybe you've actually hired a mentor and they haven't helped you yet. That's okay. This episode is for you as well. Today, I have two really special guests with me that are running a 7-figure company of their own of Improve You. I have Lamar, Hale, and Kevin Araujo, who are going to be able to break down every single question or obstacle or hurdle that you may come across. So buckle up, get your notebooks ready. You're probably going to have to watch this one twice because we're going to say some things that's going to challenge what the internet is telling you.
Happy to be here, bro. I feel like this is one of those conversations that has almost been a little bit overdue, if you will, and I feel like it's coming into fruition at a very good time right now. A lot of people are going through a lot of things, a lot of different challenges that, we've spoken kind of softly of behind closed doors, and I'm very excited to be able to, take our time and have a very well-curated and well-structured conversation about it today.
I appreciate you starting it off so politically correct, Kevin, because that's not what we're here to do today. But I appreciate that 100%. Because I'm trying to challenge like the status quo, bro. And this one is like really meaningful. Like you said, we have had these conversations behind closed doors, but I get the opportunity to sit with so many business owners, so many entrepreneurs right here. And I get it. Obviously, they're coming to promote themselves, their business, grow brand awareness, make themselves look like the, how do I say it? The authority in their space. Let's just say that, right? So they never want to discuss the lows or the hardships, but that's really what it's like on a day-to-day basis running a company, being an entrepreneur, running a business. And let's be real, dude, trying to hit $1 million and then 10 million, 20 million. Those are totally different challenges. Today, I want to be able to undress some of those things that are going to come up because I know I've experienced them. I'm experiencing some now. You know what I mean? So I would love for you guys to be able to help me unlock another level. So let's do it. Like I said in the intro, some mentors are probably going to get upset because people are out here taxing $100,000 for the stuff that we're about to give away for free. So
yeah, let's do it. I think it's very important. A lot of people get lost when you're seeing people on social media and you see everybody's highlight reel, right? And that's what social media is. Instagram, TikTok, it's a highlight reel. It's rare that you see anyone be real raw and unfiltered or even speak about the challenges that they are going through. Like sometimes I see some people are starting to be a little bit more candid, with what's going on, some behind the scenes, like, streamers, really. You get that out of streamers. But especially in like financial services or even like just, anyone running an online business, online entrepreneurship, digitalpreneurs, or whatever they call themselves, you don't get to see, they don't really talk about the challenges. They only talk about like the good things that are happening or has happened or how they got to where they are, but they don't actually break down as to, what hurdles, what speed bumps, what roadblocks they run into, what type of challenges do they face, whether it's maybe threats, legal issues, solid people on their team that left, people wanting more money, people, screwing them over out of money. There's a lot that happens on the road to making 7 figures, to making 8 figures, to making multiple 8 figures, right? And you don't get to see or hear a lot about that.
no, you're absolutely right. And as I was listening to you speak, I had somewhere where I wanted to start this off, but I think you just gave me like the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin lob of all time. So let's start
Lob
there.
City in Vegas.
Lob City in Vegas from Lamar. Let's run it. I feel like that's a great spot to start because let's just let the people know. So let's say for this example, you've already started your business and you're one-manning the show, right? And we've all done it at that level. You don't know what you don't know yet. You don't know what you're about to face. You don't know actually when hurdles and obstacles do come and arise, how do you handle them because it's your first time. So let's start off with this one. You're brand new in your business. You've started, you already have the correct mindset, right? Maybe you had a mentor or two, or you've consumed enough Alex Hormozy where it's like you have to work 18 hours a day. This is what it takes. Don't let distractions get in the way. Cool. This is for that person. Now you're actually in the thick of things, right? What do you say to that person who is afraid of even showing up online? I don't want to show my face. I want to have a company where I don't have to be the face. I don't have to present myself, or I'm not comfortable being online because whatever it is, like family members, right? They have children. That's cool. I do too. I don't share my daughter a whole hell of a lot, but there's certain things that you have to do to be able to make people trust you. They need to be able to recognize you. So what do you say to those individuals who are kind of teetering that line of like, I want to have a business, but I don't want to be the face of, or I don't want to actually be in front of my business? What's up, risk takers? Welcome back to the Double Down Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Woodson. And if you're ready to stop playing small and start building the empire you are meant for, you're in exactly the right place. Before we dive in today's game-changing episode, do me a quick favor. If you're listening on audio right now, smash that follow button and leave me a 5-star rating. It literally takes you 3 seconds. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, so you never miss the strategies that could change your entire life.
So typically every business needs, I like to call it, a primary face or primary faces, if you will. Somebody's got to be out on the front lines, recognizable, having conversations with people. Sometimes a face becomes a reference to, what your company does and what your company can do. And, to somebody who's starting off, who let's say doesn't want to adopt that role, one of the hardest things to understand that I don't really see a lot of people talk about is when somebody becomes the face, they become known. And it's very easy to mistake the face for being the owner or the CEO, right? So are you comfortable giving that up and then having to battle with your own ego and saying, no, they might be the face, but I'm the owner. I started this, right? So that's another thing too. I mean, if you think about it this way, I'm going to recognize who I see most often, as is any consumer. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a great different pivot, because I wasn't thinking that way. So continue, because that one I like a lot.
Yeah, and I say that from experience too. I would hate to sound like I'm just pulling that out of my back pocket, but it's happened before with companies that I've worked with as well. And me personally, I kind of felt that way starting off too. Like, I'm not really the guy. I don't want to be corny. I don't want to be that guy being in front of the camera. Like, I just know how people that I came up around will perceive that. But that was also part of me detaching myself from that environment and realizing the people that I'm learning from, the people that I'm absorbing, the people that I see most often, they're doing the same thing that I refuse to do. So if I want to get past where I'm at, it's kind of a no-brainer. And sometimes it takes a couple weeks, couple months, couple years to learn that. Thankfully for me, it did not take that long. I had to get over it. And had I not done that, I probably wouldn't even be on this podcast today, because it wouldn't be me to sit down and have a conversation, candidly in front of the camera.
Yeah.
This is so cliche, but the first thing I would say is I have said this to people, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And, that's tossed around a lot, it's obvious. But the deeper part behind that is, in today's economy, in today's society, in today's, business world, whether you're growing a business locally, a brick and mortar, you're doing business online, whatever it is, right? People do business with people, right? Me, when I'm going to buy something or invest into something, or just make a decision that, that involves finances, right? I'm going to either listen or use like my close circle of influence for reference when it comes to, let's say, investing into someone for a mentorship, consulting, any type of service that they're selling, whatever it is, right? Or I'm going to invest into my network first, because I already have that, that rapport with them, right? And it's because I've done business with them, or I've networked with them, I've socialized with them. I got to know, at least to a certain level, the type of person they are and the type of, business that they run or what it is that they sell, right? But if you're not going to be someone that's willing to put yourself out there, put yourself in rooms, represent your company or your brand, or, go online and produce content to show your value, to share your product, to share your service, then you're doing yourself and your business a disservice. Because
especially starting out.
Yeah, especially starting out, right? Because you're not, I tell people this all the time, and essentially you brought up Hormozy, right? You've consumed Hormozy and you're like ready to go at it, right? And then I talk to people and they'll say things like, oh, well, Hormozy teaches this, or he does this, he said, give everything away for free, you get your value back to you. And I tell people, yeah, that's great, and that thing works for Hermosi, but you're not Hermosi, and his thing isn't your thing, right? So, and that guy's built a brand. People recognize him. You know, the nose strip, wife beater, 240. You know, however much he weighs, right? Good looking, built dude, right? And that helped him establish his brand and helped give him his presence and separate himself from every other, online guru. And now when he does speak, people listen and they recognize him, right? I didn't know who Hermosi was till two and a half years ago. Someone brought him up to me. And I was thinking about somebody completely different. They said, no, the guy that's always wearing a nose strip. I'm like, oh, that guy. Yeah, I've seen him, right? And then funny enough, we went down a rabbit hole with about him. But if you're not going to, if you want to not be that person and be up front, okay, cool. There's another route you can go. You can hire, you can partner with someone with some influence. They're probably going to want, some money or equity in your company. So that's less money in your pocket. Or you could pay, UGC creators, or now, everyone's going down.
Themselves. Yeah.
Now everybody's going down the AI route. You can create an AI, figure or whatever, right? I think that's going to not be something you can do for too much longer. I think they're going to regulate even that.
Right.
But again, you're doing yourself a disservice. So just like Kevin said, and probably just like you, like when I started, I didn't want to be I'm a very private person, right? And I'm not the center of the room or center of attention in the room type of guy. I'm not loud. I'm not boisterous. Funny enough, when I was a kid, I used to be. I used to always want to get attention. But as I got older, I never had felt like the need or want for it. But I had to get comfortable with the fact, well, if I'm going to sell XYZ product or service, or, try to sell my value out there, how are people going to, one, even know what it is that I do, or even find, develop some type of trust in what I'm selling if I can't share the type of person that I am or the type of business that I run or provide value to them anyways, right? So as a consumer and investor myself, that's the first thing I look at. I fly out to people before I invest with them. Wow. That's how one of my first partners that I invested with out here, or partnered up with, I didn't even need to invest in anything, but it was a partnership we were developing that there was gonna be a lot of money involved. And I never met him. I met him on a Zoom call. Someone introduced him to me, and I said, okay, cool, I'll see you next week. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm coming to Vegas. And I flew out here, met him, got lunch. We went to Top Golf, and we built a very close relationship. And now he's one of my close friends, one of my biggest business partners, right? Same thing with Kevin. When I started working with Kevin, didn't know who he was. I remember our first call. It was late at night in October. It was during the winter. He had just invested into a coaching program that we were doing. And I could tell the guy was well-spoken, and he was saying some very serious things as far as what he wanted to do, what his goals were. And after a couple calls, I pulled up on him too, to kind of, okay, I think there's even more business you and I can do together, but let me come in. I need to come meet you. Yeah. And I learned that a long time ago. I've invested with people and I partnered up with people where I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what type of habits they had. People talk a big game and they'll say a lot of things. Oh, I've done this. I can do this. Here's my receipts. Here's my results. But I've learned the hard way, and I've lost money at a younger age by and time, just by blindly trusting, whatever it is that they're presenting to me, right? Because I didn't know who those people were. And when I got involved with them, I found out they're not everything that they claim to be, or some of the things that they showed me wasn't really the truth, like the full truth, right? So again, if you can't put yourself out there, how is anyone going to, do business with you or even buy from you?
No, yeah.
Are you ready to turn your dreams into a reality? At Deviant Consultations, we're here to guide you, complete white glove service every step of the way. Whether you're starting your credit repair journey or you're looking to get business funding, we've got your back. Go ahead and screenshot or click the QR code below and schedule your discovery call with the team. Let's make your dreams come true together.
I agree 100%. I think there's this buzz phrase that's out there, if people don't know you, people can't flow you, or something like that.
Yep.
And we're all three sitting here now in front of the camera. We've done this now for, I don't even know how many hours together, right? If you accumulate our pieces of content. But I was terrified, right? Kevin's already admitted that he was terrified. Lamar said that he was terrified. So just be aware, you're not alone. The fear that you have, the anxiety that you have, and the thought process of like, you cannot do this, you're not alone in that feeling. We've all felt discomfort, and Lamar hit it earlier. It's like, you have to get comfortable in being uncomfortable. So once you get used to doing this, it just becomes a habit. It truly does. You can obviously pick and choose and censor what you want to share, because like I said earlier, I don't share everything. Lamar's already told you. He's a very private person as well. So you get to, and it's kind of weird to, I guess, use this word, but like, you get to manipulate the internet in what you want to expose people to. But to take your business to actually like what it's worth, right? You know how valuable you are and what service or thing that you can provide the world. To get it to its true peak value, you have to put a face. You have to present it, because the days of just, you know, finding a Charizard Pokemon card in your closet, that's out, bro. You're not going to just get rich overnight anymore without putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. We've all had to do it. So to that person who's straddling that fence, you're not alone. You can do it, overcome it. Honestly, if you look at my phone, I don't even delete videos. There's so many videos in there that are garbage.
Bro, I got so many bloopers.
Bro.
So many bloopers, bro.
I remember my first podcast, Matthias, who's in the booth right now. Big shout out to Matthias, because I've come a long way. From episode number 1, he was like, bro, you suck. And I paid this man, bro. I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
Okay,
This coming from somebody who you just paid to press play and
that's
shut
what
up,
I'm
yo.
like, dog, you're not supposed to judge me. Like, you edit, you tell me I'm
the
great. Exactly. I come back next week. But I needed that. And then
You made adjustments based
I made
off
it
of that too.
And then I told my wife, Matthias said I suck. She was like, let's watch it together. And she was like, yeah,
Really?
you suck. And I was like, damn,
That's very supportive.
I needed it. And instead of like shriveling inside of myself of like my ego and my
Faced
pride, I had to face it, because this woman is who I want to think I'm the highest. You know what I mean? So if she doesn't think I'm Hercules, how can I let the world, how do I expect the world to think that of me, bro? So from episode number 2, I mean, we can ask Matthias after that, I came in like attacking every single thing. Like, tell me, what did I do wrong? What did I
made
do
the
wrong?
adjustments.
Had to.
You came in with more structure, man.
Because she made me feel this big. I'm not going to lie, but I needed it.
But you
dude.
progress from that, man. And, you know, funny enough, thinking about it now, coming from somebody whose job is to look at things from 1,000-foot view, from like a very wide angle, you know, part of me now thinks like, very bold of you to assume that you're the one that's dealt the worst deck of cards in history. Like, do you really believe that you, out of all people, out of anybody who's ever tried to do this, is having the worst experience with it, the most things working against them? Like, no. That's always something that we negotiate with. We negotiate with ourselves in our own minds. And that's all we have, because it's you in front of the camera in a room and you're judging yourself, right? Humans are very judgmental. That's what we do, whether we'd like to admit it or not. And we do that most to ourselves.
Damn, that was a bar. And yeah, thank you for that one, Kevin. Okay, now we've overcome the first hurdle, obstacle, challenge, right? We're actually exposing ourselves, putting ourselves out there on the front line. And I know we're all in like the financial space of like credit repair and funding. So for us, this might be what the conversation is tailored to, but I think the emphasis kind of works, and you can change it to any business model. So hopefully this affects you as well. Let's say you start exposing yourself, you put yourself out there, and now the clients actually start to come, right? Number 1 and number 2 and number 3 is great. Everything that you've learned on your own and with your friends and your family member went the same exact way. And you're like, I'm the best at this. How is everybody not rich off this? I do this with ease, bro. But then client number 4 comes in and they don't have the same experience. Whatever that may be that person doesn't get you their documents on time. Like, there is something where we have to wait on our clients too. We need their participation for us to even
cooperation.
We do, to even start to deliver for them, right? So let's say there's a little bit of friction there on that front end, and the result that you were able to get, not only yourself, your friends, and your family members, but these 3+ clients, you can't get with number 4. So now you have your very first negative interaction with the customer. I'll tell you, bro, I didn't really know. I wanted to be like, what? You need me, I don't need you. Here's your money back. That's how I wanted to act, right? Because I've never experienced it before.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not how you act at all. That's not going to get you very far in life. But
You're coming from that position because you know you had the leverage.
I did.
Yeah.
That was very
They don't know that though.
Exactly.
So how do you
Please
get them, a complete stranger, to understand that? And also the process of making sure that you build rapport and that you convey the idea what you can do from your mind into theirs. It's very easy to do that with people that you came up around or people that know you, even to an extent. But building any big business, right? Building any big operation, any big dream, either you have to get good at being able to show people how to do that because you've done it yourself, or you're going to be working with people externally that are doing that, right? And to Lamar's point earlier, you're giving something up. There needs to be a deliverable in exchange for that. You're either paying them something, you give up a share, a piece of the pie, right? As some people like to call it. But that needs to be you're not going to be able to build any business off of just referrals and people you know.
Yeah.
I think it's think about being a business owner at any stage. The ones that go the furthest, make the most money, have the largest impact, are people that can, think on their feet, that are critical thinkers, that can be creative thinkers, and that can, solve problems that are constantly hurled at them, right? Because you're never going to, this is life. It's not even just business. You're never going to stop having problems. You're never going to stop having challenges. And you're never going to, stop coming across things that you haven't experienced before.
More money's not going to solve any of that shit either.
That, it just doesn't end, right? So in that situation, I was the opposite, right? I wanted to do so well for everyone that I went above and beyond and a hell of a lot further than I should have gone for a lot of people, just for them still to not even recognize how far I did go for them, just even get something done or to get the result that they wanted. Even when I didn't, I even offered not to get paid or they paid me less, and I didn't complain, because for me, it was, at the end of the day, it was my responsibility because I sold them on XYZ or they paid me for, XYZ service. And I wanted to make sure that I delivered. Now I learned over time that you can't be that way with everybody, right? So you kind of you got to figure out like a system or a process on deciding who you're going to work with, what type of clients you are going to take on, customers you're going to take on, how far you are willing to go with them, or be clear with the expectations of whatever it is that they're buying or investing into you, right? But in the beginning, you don't understand that. You don't know that. So you have to figure out the best way to handle it. And every situation is going to be different. You're never going to have too many of the same exact problems starting out. And if you do, then that more than likely has something to do with your system, your business, your delivery, and not, the other side, right? So, for me, I took accountability and took responsibility and tried to get the result that, they were looking for. But you shouldn't do that. You have to kind of, figure out what works best for you. Starting out, you want to, do right by every customer, because in the beginning it's very important, right? So and that's with anything. You start a relationship with someone, or you're building a relationship, those first couple interactions, that first impression, those first couple of dates or just, meetups, you're laying a foundation, right? And if that foundation is weak or has holes in it, then you're probably not going to be able to build something, long lasting with that person, whether it's personally or professionally, right? So it's the same thing with your business, your product or your service that you're selling. It's real easy, especially in today's world, where you can, get canceled, or you deal with the wrong person and they're pissed and they just so happen to have a 100,000 subscriber YouTube account and they want to go on and expose you and your business and your brand, whatever it is. Yep. It's real easy for you to get, stalled coming out of the gate before you even really get started, right? So you just have to be mindful of everybody's gonna have a different situation, but if you can't figure out this problem or this hurdle now, then all you're doing is delaying that problem or hurdle, and it's going to come somewhere else, down the line. You're going to come across the same situation, and you're not going to know what to do because you haven't solved it, right? You didn't try to solve it. You just procrastinated or threw it off or, refunded the person. So you have to, when you're building early on, that foundation is very, very important. You want to set yourself up for success. I'm not saying make it hard for yourself and welcome all these challenges and all these problems and et cetera, but you have to deal with them then. Because if you don't deal with them, then you're creating a pretty bad habit early on of, not dealing with problems, and that's how you have holes in your game. And then maybe you do go far. Maybe you make, $100K in a year, or you get to $100K in a month. Next thing you know, these situations are popping up again, and they're popping up all over the place. And now you have a bigger business with more clients. Maybe you already have a team involved too, And now you have to spend time going back and fixing this thing that you could have fixed in the very beginning, where it wouldn't have happened again.
Dang. That's a completely different like posture that you chose to take at the very beginning of starting your company. You know, and I appreciate you sharing it because it was a different perspective. Now that I'm thinking about this, I think this has the possibility of helping so many more people than I initially started to think, because I have a different example, right, or perspective, or how I went about something. You do as well. So I feel like we're about to be able to help the masses if you give your examples and how the posture you took and perspective. Same with you and same with myself. So now I just got excited and juiced because I was like, yeah, that wasn't me. When I started, bro, I wasn't Lamar.
Get out of here.
I was just like, bye, bro. There's
Money back, bro. I'm done with this.
I'm telling clients right now, I'm too busy to help other clients. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, you could leave. Here's your money back. Let me go help this dude. Yeah. But again, that was me coming from a standpoint, and I was on my high horse. You know what I mean? I was like, I know I can deliver. I know I have the skill. You need me. But that was a moment for me where I did give that refund back. And then it happened again. I want to say like customer number 5 or 6. And then this individual actually left like not only a bad comment, but a testimonial. So they didn't have the reach that you were speaking of like 100,000 subscribers. Thank God, bro. But you know, I could only imagine. I wouldn't be here with you today. But that was something for me to experience, bro, because I haven't had that. You know, I've only had uplifting, you know, like helping my mom, my cousin, my wife, you know what I mean? So I've had nothing but positive reviews and positive comments and testimonials. So to see my very first negative, I was like, oh crap, I have to go and fix this. And you do.
You have to acknowledge it.
Okay.
You have to acknowledge it.
Speak on that, because everyone is going to go through it, right?
Yeah, so I think, you know, your instinct, especially when you're starting off in business, right, is I don't want any bad blood with anybody. I don't want anybody to look at me, look at my company any less than I do, right? But the reality of the matter is it's going to do you good to acknowledge it. And sometimes you have to be able to give the person on the other side of the table perspective because they might not have it, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So there was a client, right? This will stay nameless, obviously, but there was a client who came in and they were recommended to me personally, right? Now, at the time, I wasn't working with clients personally. I was overseeing the team, training them, working with our partners and affiliates. That's mainly what took up my role on the day-to-day. So I told client, hey, respectfully, you know, I know you're recommended to me, but I'm not going to be the one that can actually work with you. I can't take you through this process because respectfully, I know how much time and attention this process requires and how much of an exchange we need to do. And your plans, you know, I want to make sure that you get the highest caliber of this experience. It'd be better if I had one of my advisors working with you, right? Because when you're assigned to somebody, you know, they have nothing but time to dedicate to you. I can't dedicate that time to you. So mind you, that was the first conversation I had with this person. And throughout the duration of the process, he's like chasing after me, trying to check in with me, trying to, you know, get me to update him on things and this and that. And I remember one thing that I told him in the beginning was, in order for me to even know what's going on, I still have to check in with the guy who's assigned to you because they're the ones that are working with you. I can't know what all of his clients are doing for all of our advisors across all of our company at the same time. Like, I don't think anybody can. Like, it's just a lot going on. Long story short, I ended up having to work with him because he lost an opportunity. And I was trying to help him piece a couple of things together, which were outside of my responsibility and outside of like the capabilities of our service, if you will. But I did that because I felt bad, right? And I'm like, you know what? You've been chasing me for a hot minute, bro. So let me see what I can do. Now, towards the end of that relationship, he ended up not being satisfied, but it was because of things that he couldn't fix on his side. And I made sure he understood you have these 3 problems, right? One of them I can guide you on. The other 2, they're outside of my wheelhouse. They're outside of my responsibility. You need to be able to take accountability with yourself, your situation as a man. And I punched the man card. Mm-hmm. And you have to be the person to fix all this. I'm not responsible for all this. Needless to say, he wasn't satisfied, right? And
his ego's not bruised.
And his ego's not bruised, exactly, bro.
Oh,
and
yeah, definitely was.
Yeah.
No, it was. So here's the thing. The point I'm trying to make is that was a situation that I tried to remedy, and I didn't come into that situation thinking to myself, I need to fix this. I came into that situation thinking there's a disconnect somewhere because you came in, you're expecting to be babysat. That's not what we do. I don't do that for anybody. And over the years, I've learned when to be confrontational, when to help people realize they are lacking in certain things themselves. And I do that in a very strategic way. I credit that to being better at communicating over time, learning how to be a little bit more articulate with people and knowing how to say certain things, right? You can say the same thing in two different ways. One person is going to accept it. The other person might cry. The third person might be extremely offended because of how it comes off. And from that experience and going through a couple other ones over the years too, I realized that's something that a lot of people don't have, especially when they're starting off, because you're trying to learn as much as possible. You're trying to do as much good as you can, but sometimes you're not always aware of how you're getting better at communicating. That's literally all business is. Selling, marketing, everything. Everything comes down to communicating. Can you convey an idea from your head into somebody else's? How do you do that? That's what makes you unique.
And the reality of even that situation and just business as a whole, you're not going to be, especially if you're running a service-based business, you're providing a service.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're never going to be able to please everyone, right? We mentioned Hormozy earlier. I haven't found it, and I haven't went and looked, but I bet you Hormozy has bad reviews. I bet you there's somebody on Reddit, that's probably posted something about this man and said that his, $25K or $100K or whatever it was that they invested into was a scam because he didn't really help them with their business. Or I have heard people speak online and say all Hormozy does is point holes at Swiss cheese, right? Like basically you already know you have holes and you're exposing your holes to him and he's basically telling you, yeah, that's a hole. Which in a way, he kind of does do that, but you're the one that needed to come and hear it from somebody that, is at that level for it to settle in with you, right? But anyways, back to my point is you're not gonna be able to please everyone, right? I know a situation he's talking about. Not only did that person get the result that they were looking for, the issue was the timeline, which was clearly expressed in the beginning, it was already a tight timeline, and it didn't happen on his timeline. And we said it wouldn't happen on his timeline. But like Kevin said, he came in to try and help the guy out even more. He took responsibility. There was no additional charges. He took out his time. He didn't get anything extra out of it, and he went above and beyond to try and to help this person, even with things that had absolutely nothing to do with us or the services we provided to him. And even after all of that, that person still wasn't satisfied. And I think they were upset, just by the way, that the last interaction happened. It's like, hey, you got to take accountability. You're a business owner and you've been in, other spaces or other industries where if you mess up, it is your mess up, but I'm here helping you. And at this point, it comes down to you. Wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. That guy went and, tried to, tarnish whatever he could with us. And the reality is you're just not going to be able to please everybody, right? So you got to pick your spots. That situation was something that, Kevin, came in and tried to help and tried to, remedy, whatever the individual or the client was upset about, but it wasn't enough for him. And it's like, there's only so much we can do, but then we still end up getting the bad press, if you will, for it. And, back to the original, question, you're going to get bad reviews. You're going to get, testimonials. You're going to have people speak negatively of you and your company, maybe your team, especially if you're doing business online. You're going to have people call it a scam, right? I know really large companies ran by really, well-known people, Patrick Bet-David, for example. There are so many people out there that says, oh, he made all his money off scamming people on insurance. Hey, look, man, insurance that's a conversation for another day. That might be an entire huge scam. But the reality is, no matter how well known you are, how influential you are, how many lives you do impact on a positive scale, you're not going to be able to do that for everyone. So it's real.
That's also at the surface too, man. One thing I'll point out, not to cut you off, about Patrick Bet-David too, is, although he's willing to recognize that he made a, bigger fortune in that industry, what a lot of people don't know is, and I saw this here recently, is if somebody asks him right now, right, how do I make it in insurance? He won't give you any answers And what he will give you is what you need to do is you need to go talk to one of the top 25 people that are doing it right now, because I'm not doing it right now. Have I done it? Yes. But as you can see, I'm out the game. So I probably could guide you, but I'm not the best person to guide you because I'm not in the game right now. Go talk to one of the top 25 that are in right now, because they're doing it right now.
Yeah. That's a smart play for him, so he can't be held accountable to non-success.
Hey, sometimes you got to say no too.
Yeah,
you might already know what he's probably been through situations where he can already recognize where that might go, and again, if it's even worth his time. And there becomes a point in your business or a level that you do reach where you do get to pick and choose who you decide to work with, and that's after you built up a strong presence, a recognizable name and or brand. Hundreds, thousands of reviews, or just, people backing you saying, hey, they do good service, they do good business, they did right by me.
You also evolve and you grow into other things too. Yeah. Like if there's going to be a day where we exit what we're doing right now. I mean, I don't plan on doing it forever. And when that day comes, there might be somebody who comes along after that and says, hey, I want you to show me how to do it. And I might be inclined to tell them, I don't think that's a good idea because I'm past that now. I'm doing other things.
You wouldn't take their $100,000, Kevin?
I can't tell you that I wouldn't take the $100,000. But what I will tell you is it depends on the situation too, man. I might be going down a path where I want to build something else, and I might really want to dedicate my time to what I'm building, because I know the time dedicated is going to yield me a greater return than $100,000 that I have to intake right now. That's going to cost me more time right now, right? And that's another thing too. Like, me working with somebody, I have to really understand where you're at, because I'm not at a place where I can build you from scratch, because that also means I have to give you a whole paradigm shift on life, business, everything. Yeah. I can't give you my sense of stoicism. I built that myself over years. I can't give you my philosophies, and I can't instill that in you, Like, if anything, the only person that's going to get that is, my children that come after me, because they're going to spend their lives with me. But me giving that to another person in such a short amount of time, the money sounds great until you realize you're not built like that. But I built myself over the years.
And you can't even get to that point without going through those experiences, those challenges. Yeah. It's the little things, the overcoming the overcoming your own internal thoughts with putting yourself out there, overcoming the challenge of your first bad review or problematic client and how you deal with that, right? We all have had different experiences in business and in life that's helped mold us and shape us to who we are today. But the thing that I'm sure that I can confidently say about all of us is that we still, we didn't quit, give in, or, boo-hoo and cry like, I don't know what to do. We all figured it out our own way. And we were able to go through that experience that helped mold and develop us as far as, coming across new experiences and how we handle them, right? But if you shy away from it, or if you're scared of it, then again, you're doing yourself a disservice, and it's going to be hard to, go very, far with whatever goal, whatever your goals are.
Yeah. And right there, what we just did was we gave not only our experiences, but there was multiple examples of people that we put on these pedestals that all have to deal with skepticism. So for that person, again, that's on the other side of this, watching this episode, we've now already helped you with the fear, combating the fear, and getting online or building a brand and a presence for yourself. Now we've also given you huge examples of everyone deals with skepticism. Everyone deals with bad reviews. Everyone has turmoil. But as long as you continue to go through it, more turmoil is coming, right?
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
It's not something you can avoid.
And that's what I really want.
Money, more problems.
There we go. Because you said something earlier while Lamar was talking. He said that you said money won't even allow you to not overcome hurdles or obstacles. And I think that that's a huge part of it, because what I see now, at least in our space, right? I'm sure your algorithm is full of the same things that mine is if you do pay for a mentor, you now become your mentor in just a faster gap of time. And I want to try to fix that, the philosophy and like the framework of it, because do they help you along the way? Yes, that's what this episode is even for, right? Do they try to do like a GPS map of like, oh, don't go here first, or I'm going to set you up with my guys here? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But you hit it just now on the head. You cannot become your mentor. The philosophy, the stoicism, the way that they think, right? And you may have a totally different fear complex than I do, where I'm not able to endure as much as you are or go as quickly as you. And it could be not only just like me internally, but I may have a wife and 3 kids, dude. You know what I mean? And you don't have those.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's a very good way of looking at that too.
And it's a huge difference of where we can get on an acceleration phase, because I want to leverage everything. And I have this incredibly high leverage of tolerance, right? Of fear and overcoming and like investing. But I know if I shit the bed, dude, my wife and my kids are out. So I can't do those things. So I want people to be able to step back and acknowledge, like you said something earlier, like staring from the view from 1,000 feet, of just because you do pay a mentor and they are going to help you along the way, if it's, you know, their school community or PDFs or whatever, you do not just become them, because you have to endure things at your own rate of speed in your time, just like they did. The obstacles and hurdles are going to come. I want you to know that. Just because you pay for someone's knowledge doesn't mean you don't have to go through things. They actually want you to experience it, so that when it happens again, you know how to overcome it from the future. I want to ask you both, going on the route that you have gone through, helping and training and teaching the people and even gracing the stages, right, and getting into the rooms that you've gotten into, what would you say is something that you don't feel like is discussed enough or acknowledged enough that you actively want to like let the viewer know that's watching this episode today? Like something that sticks home to you that you wish was more of a dialogue. And I'll start with you, Kevin.
With me?
Yeah, man. I want to hear the stoicism, bro.
All right, cool. So, you know, at every level of business, at every level of life, there's it's almost like there's challenges specifically created, like spawned out of thin air, that are meant to shape you into who you're meant to be, right? And a lot of people, what I notice is they try to compare that to what other people are going through. If I were to teach a student, you know, how to overcome something, or if I were to give them a map, I can give them the map A through Z on what they asked me to give them, but that doesn't mean that it comes with my ability to solve problems. It doesn't mean that it comes with, you know, the way that I formulate my sentences. It doesn't mean that it comes with, you know, how I even think to respond to people. Like, I don't just say the first thing that comes to my mind, because I don't want people to listen to respond. I want people to listen to understand what I'm trying to give them. And when I started diving in a little bit deeper into that and just, you know, trying to become a better communicator, I saw very fast that the results of that were very obvious when I did speak on stages, when I did, you know, do podcast episodes with other content creators and other people in the space. And even more when I started to get that as a compliment. I had never gotten that as a compliment before. So that was something that obviously showed me, okay, this is really paying off, and it's starting to become noticeable, because I obviously wasn't this guy this entire time. Now, let's rewind to 3 years ago. I never, ever would have thought that I would become that person. And I'm not the most philosophical person ever. You know, I'm not the toughest guy out there. But what I will say is I'm very proud of what I've been through, even if it tore me down, even if it left scars behind, because that's allowed me to become who I am today. You know, a lot of people, they kind of throw a little bit of shame on that themselves with their own things, because they're not proud of it, right? How could this happen to me? Bold of you to assume that you're not the guy that got handed the hardest deck of cards.
For me, what I would say is your number, in my experience, and not even my own personal experience, but just from experiencing other people's, we'll call them rises and falls. Your number one enemy in really anything, especially in business, is going to be your ego. If you do not drop your ego, and if you do not stop acting like the world owes you something or people owe you something, and if you cannot, you know, recognize that, you know, you're not entitled to everything just because you know something or did something.
Just because you're you.
Yeah, or just because you found some type of level of success and proof. You know, you're not entitled to something just because of who you are, right? I've been in the online space, you know, making money online, if you will, for almost a decade now. And I've not, you know, it took me a while to find success. It took me a while to make money. It took me a while to make money consistently. You know, I came up, it took me a minute to get to a point where I was making some consistent residuals, you know, with the company I was working with, you know, $3K a month. That was great to me. I mean,
Come on, man.
it didn't last that long though, right? So I had to go back to a valley and then bring myself up again and find a different way. But what I have seen with people above me, counterponents of me, if you will, and things that will get in their way or things that have been their downfall is they let their ego, take over, or they couldn't let their ego go. And I've had these conversations a lot with people here lately, when it like partnerships, just business deals, just how people move, right? The world doesn't owe you nothing. Really, nobody owes you anything. It's up to you to decide the type of person you're going to be, or the type of, way you're going to go about business and handling things, and how open-minded or how willingly are you to collaborate and work with other people that might be at a different level than you, might be above you, that might have the thing that you want, or even maybe at the same level. But the thing is, they might have something or know something that you don't know, but you're not willing to, have some type of value exchange because you feel like they should give you something, right? And I've seen a lot of people come up and they find a little bit success. They build large, followings online. Business is going good, and they start to feel themselves a bit, and then their character and their ego really starts to show.
They feel like they're owed value sometimes too when they sit down with you. Like you need to be a little bit more malleable. I feel like when you start to cross like certain paths or certain barriers, especially when you're having conversations with people that could potentially turn into a mutual value exchange. Like there's people out there and they're very good at negotiating. They're very good at selling themselves, not just their product and service. They're very good at making you feel a certain way, while the other side of the conversation is they're taking something away from it, and it's very easy. I mean, especially with everything I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure Lamar too. We speak to people here and there, and it's pretty apparent that they're looking for something out of the conversation, and they're doing a poor job of trying to coat that. Like, terrible. And I'm like, I almost want you to go ahead and just ask flat out, like, what do you need from me? Because I'm trying to find out what that is so that I can acknowledge it and see, okay, should I give it to you? Like, is it worth having that conversation or not? But when you're beating around the bush, it's like, brother, like I've negotiated and I've made people feel like shit that are 2-3 times my age. Like, I've gotten past that.
So can I ask you then, do you respect more the person who has the opportunity, maybe has seen you online, gets the opportunity to be in the same room with you and instantly shakes your hand and jumps right to it? Do you respect that more because that person has the courage and is upfront with it? Or do you want them to kind of woo you and tango with you for a little bit?
I think there's a time and place.
Okay.
There's a time and place. And I'll give you an example. Last event that I spoke at was actually a funding conference in Philly. And
Go Birds.
Yep, it was a 3-day one. Yeah. So on day 2, I'll be honest, my social battery was starting to run a little bit low, like towards the middle of the day. So after lunch, something clicked in me and I was like, you know what? There's a lot of business in the room, but at the same time, I need to do a better job of speaking to the other speakers and the other keynotes, because really those are the people that I could do the most business with in the shortest amount of time. Everybody else here that paid to be here, they're newer. They came here to learn, right? And one of them, since then, I've built up a very good relationship with. But that was the second time I had met him at that last conference. So me and him are subliminally chasing each other down in the middle of that conference, and we're standing in the back on purpose so that way we can get off a conversation. And people keep coming up to both of us mutually, like every other minute. It got to the point where I turned around and there was like 3 people standing behind me individually waiting to speak to me. And I'm like, I feel rude, like not acknowledging that. So I said to him, I said, listen, bro, let me get your information. Like, either I'll fly to you, kind of like he said, we like to meet people, or, fly over here so that we can see what's up. So the reason why I say time and place is because in a conference like that, right, because there's so many people around, you should low-key be under the expectation of not having such a long conversation with me because there's so many people that are looking to speak to me. So if you're going to drag a conversation out that long, 1, have it structured. 2, read the room a little bit. You see that there's other people waiting to speak to me, right? I have no problem giving you my information, or maybe even setting up a time so that we can speak. That would be easier for both you and me because you'll have my undivided attention. Right now, you don't have my undivided attention because I'm in the setting where a lot of people are trying to get at me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can appreciate someone being outright with their intention, but, is it going to go far with me? No. Is it going to go far with, most people that are playing at maybe the same level as I am or even above me? Probably not. either, right? Because at the end of the day, like we said earlier, you know, more than likely, if you're coming to me, and this is at any level of business, but if you're coming to me, I have something that you want or you feel like you might need, right? Because you came here, you put the call with me, you approached me, etc. You know, so I respect that you came, or I can appreciate that you came and let me know your intention, but that's not going to, you know, be the most effective way to deal with everybody, and everybody's different. But most people, you know, their time is valuable, right? Like he said, he was at a conference and he wanted to give his value to the, you know, as many people as he could. You know, he spoke on stage for an hour, right? Gave out a lot of free sauce and game. I saw them videos. Like, why are you talking about that, bro? But that's what you pay to be there for, right? And if you get the opportunity to maybe network or connect with one of the speakers, then great. But you know, be perceptive or be aware of, you know, the situation, the room, and the fact that, hey, this person, you know, you have to have some like type of level of respect, right? So yeah, come up, introduce yourself, and then try and grab a contact. You know, what I tell people, and this is something I taught him like years ago, right? You all like come in if it's someone that has something that you want, or even just someone at a level you just want to connect with. Maybe you're not trying to get anything, but you just want to get to know that person and you know, maybe build some type of rapport relationship. But you know they're above you, or that you know they're at a level that you're trying to get to. Come and offer something to them. And when I say offer something, I don't mean necessarily even something tangible. And don't say, hey, like, you know, senior stuff, would love to like pay you to work with you or be your mentee, you know, do you have a coach? Not like that. Just come and offer value. Hey, you know, I really, you know, connected with XYZ video you just put out, or I love the content you've been pushing lately. You know, I'm new in this space, or I just started doing this thing. I just want you to know, like, if there's any way I can be of value or a service to what you're doing and what you have going on, you know, I would love to extend that to you or help you out with that, etc. Right? Something along those lines. And I teach anyone this that's just getting started, or anyone that approaches me and they're not really, you know, they need a little lesson on networking. Yeah. And I take nowadays I take the opportunity to like give them that lesson. But if you do that and you approach it from that angle, whether you want something or not, it's going to go a lot further with people where their time is very valuable, and you know, and it has shown, or it's been proven that they are probably that valuable figure that, you know, probably doesn't have a lot of time. It goes a hell of a lot further. But if you come up to me and be like, yo, bro, like, yeah, I've seen you somewhere, like, yo, give me some plays, like, give me some sauce, like, what's the play right now?
Can't fucking stand that shit.
Again, I can appreciate the intention, because you didn't play this song and dance with me of like, you know, this is, it's warm out here. Like, have you been on the beach?
Yeah.
You know, like
I just hate the phrase "the play." Like, give me the play.
That play.
What is
that
the
phrase
play?
Yeah.
Dude, don't talk to me like that.
But there's a way to approach people, and I'm the same with everybody new that I meet, even if I don't like fully know them. I introduce myself and give my little mini elevator pitch, and then I offer, and that elevator pitch leads into the value that I can provide them, or the resources that I can extend to them, and I offer something, right? That you're going to go a lot further at an event, or even just online, or even DMing somebody in their inbox. Hopefully, you can get to them and not their chat bot or whatever. It's going to go a lot further than like boldly coming up and trying to be respectful and then asking for the thing that you want to.
Yeah. Now we just gave networking 101 gems. I wasn't expecting that to happen, but
yeah, you want to come at me for giving free shit?
Yeah, right, for real. Congratulations
I'll put
to the viewer. Now let me ask you this, and I'm going to try to segment it or frame it into two different scenarios and situations. So let's say you're hitting it, right? And there's actual movement happening within your company, and you are now marketing, you're advertising. Let's just say it's time to actually start to hire, okay? And one, you don't know where to start. But two, you don't know how to train. Let's say you don't have SOPs set up, but you've also never trained someone else. And we all know this because we've done it. I'm not you, you're not him, he's not me. So when I'm hiring someone on, and I made this mistake, and I've said this publicly, I thought I was hiring DeAndre. So when I expressed I want A, B, C, and D, I expressed it how DeAndre would receive it and go get it done. When I did it for that person who, again, is not DeAndre, they did A and B and they did it like trash, and then they didn't even get to C and D. And I'm like, yo, what happened? That was for me because I didn't know how to train. I wasn't actually a leader yet. I was just running a company. So that was somewhere where I really, really had to focus. And I think you said something about it earlier, is when you speak to one person one way, it can get received completely different to this person and to this person, even though we're all in the exact same room. The way that we grew up and the way that we retain information is just differently. So that was something I really had to focus on. To me, that was the biggest hurdle and obstacle for me, like training and then keeping my staff happy, or to keep them engaged, right? And actually be able to be like, hey, like, let's have a one-on-one. Let's talk about what hurdles did you have this week and how can I help you overcome them? So if you don't mind, let's first talk about that first section of it. And then let's say, because this is going to happen, right? If you're the killer and the rock star that you say that you are, you're going to start to create little killers and little rock stars, and they're going to get pitched and they're going to get sniped off, and more power to them, right? Because you want to have them go be great. They shouldn't have to work under you forever. If they actually are who you think they are, they should be able to take all of your lessons and go start their own, right? Not even get sniped from another company, but whatever the forces and powers may be, this happens. So let's talk about those two instances. The hiring of like the first 1 or 2 employees and like going through training, because I know that's where a lot of people get stuck in trying to scale. And then eventually what happens when you start to lose A players? How do you overcome that and don't let it like demolish you? Because you've also given that one A player so much, and now they're gone, and now you have to feel like I have to fill it. And that may be 4 people because they were so good. So let's talk about those 2 different instances. I'll let you start with this one first, Lamar.
I think it's different. I think it's different for everybody, and I can't speak to how everyone else thinks and how they feel like they should run their business or how they should go about things. But for me personally, just like you said, I'm more on the lines of I want to pour into people, and I want to give them value, and I want them to become something great. And yes, I would love for them to go off and do something either on their own, or if they got to pivot somewhere else that's best for them and their family. I have absolutely no problem with it, right? If you gave me your all and you did right by me, then yes, like you're good. You're good. Hey, I wish you the best of luck. Anything I can do to support you, I'll do that for you, right? And
you took the initiative, you executed.
Yeah, a lot of people they get to the point where they earn that too. And even if they didn't earn it, I'm still supportive. Like, hey, I understand, no problem. Do what you got to do. You're like, good luck, right? So
it does get ugly though, Lamar.
It can.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
It
no,
does.
Trust me, it does. It does get ugly because then you have other people or business owners that feel very entitled to the things that they quote unquote did for you or poured into you or gave you access to, etc. So it depends on who you are and who you're dealing with, right? But from a tangible level, right, it can be tough, right? That's just how I deal with the situation. Am I going to sit here and act like me losing my A player is not going to affect my business? No, absolutely not. It is going to affect us.
It could
right?
be catastrophic.
I have to replace that person, or I have to fill in gaps. Maybe there are clients that really liked working with that person that that's going to impact whether or not we keep that client, right? So you have to. There's no way you can. I mean, I guess maybe there is a way you can prepare for it, but
hold on, just right there for that example that you just gave, though. And let's say a client is about to walk because they like this person. Do you shoot a retention bonus? Do you try to offer that employee more money, cut of the bigger pie percentage? What do you do in that example? Because I think that's a big part too.
Yeah. So again, it depends. If it's I think you should always try to retain, especially certain type of people.
Be real,
right? Because it costs, from a business standpoint, it costs you a lot more money to hire, train, and go through whatever you got to go through with that person to get them to the level that you need them to be at, or even be above that level.
It also doesn't include the plans that I had for you before you brought this up, and damn, I gotta.
And the reason I'm hitting on it so hard is because I want the possible business owner to understand, save them. To me, you know what I mean? How much you've already poured and how much have you invested. If you have clients that are telling you, I'm going to walk, you hit it earlier about dying to your ego and your pride. This is one of those moments where you swallow this up, bro. And if you have to pay out, and I call it a retention bonus because that's just what I call it to my employees who did this to me, do it. So that's why I touched on it so hard. But continue.
Yeah, you should. There should always be some type of retention, especially if it's good business, a good employee, good contractor, et cetera, because it is going to cost you money. Probably immediately and possibly in the long run too. And that's even at a corporate standpoint. You go read any report or article or watch these videos of people, running these large enterprises, right? Everyone will tell you the same thing. It costs more money to replace people than to keep people, right? There's a short-term impact, and a lot of times there's a very long-term impact. So yeah, it depends. There should be some type of retention model. If I, value that person or that player, that key figure, and I know that could be a detriment, at some way, shape, or form to the rest of my company or business, and that involves clients too, I'm going to at least do what I can to try and keep that person with whatever's within my realm of capability, right? But sometimes that's not going to be enough either. So then you have to, for me, I'm not the person that can, I'm not going to beg someone to stay, because then you give that individual all the leverage. Now they got something over you, right? But these are things I've learned. Early on, I didn't know things like that. But absolutely, it's you have to think about the bigger picture. A lot of business owners, especially people I've come across or even done business with, are very short-sighted. And sometimes people can't see the long-term impact of a single decision in that moment. Personally, I feel like for myself, and I know a lot of people would say this about me, I'm someone that is always thinking about the bigger picture. I'm always thinking 5 moves ahead. And I'm always like, okay, if this is the situation, here's every scenario as far as, depending on the decision that I make, it could go this way, or that way. What is my best option here? And I'm good at doing that fast. Sometimes I'm capped by, I'm not the only one that gets to make this decision, or it's not all, I'm not involved in the whole thing. But I'm very good at seeing ahead. So you have to kind of, again, if you have long-term goals and a long-term vision, and to, build something impactful, something great that can change your life, your family's life, et cetera, you always have to keep the big picture in mind. I'm not saying look so far ahead and worry about tomorrow every single day, but when these situations arrive, you can't be so short-sighted and allow your ego or your pride to be like, okay, yeah, you know what? Yeah, no problem. Do your thing, right? Because you're letting your ego come in, get in the way of possibly, we'll just talk money for a standpoint, making a lot of money or keeping a lot of money, because you don't want to drop that ego and allow that person to see that, hey, I do need you, or you are a value to me or value to my company, and I'm willing to, do X, Y, Z to keep you. Some people just say, F it. I used to work for someone like that a long time ago. Short story, large enterprise business, multiple locations. He had the entire ecosystem of used cars under wraps. He sold cars, he financed cars, he fixed the cars, he rented cars, he provided service contracts and warranties. The only thing, he even transported cars. The only thing he didn't do was car rentals, which is probably the highest liability, at least then at the time. But he had all these things down pat. But there were situations, the heart of the house in that industry is, if you have stuff like that, is your garage, your service center, right? Because if you don't have quality people that can do high quality work at a high quality pace to fix these, your money makers, your units that you're selling, your cars, then that can stall your business in a lot of different ways. You got 50 cars that need to get on the lot, in the next couple of weeks, but you don't have the people to be able to do that in a timely manner. That affects your business. So there are times where people will recognize how important they are to an operation, and maybe they are being recruited by other places that are willing to offer them more money to come and work for them. And that might be a different type of environment, but this was back during COVID, so that the situation I'm talking about. So at that time, finance, money was very important to a lot of people, right? It should be. But I saw this person that I worked for let really good people go and just walk without even trying to retain them, because his mindset was, oh, I don't need them. They can just be replaced. And he learned the hard way that they could not easily be replaced. And he already knew that. He already been in business for so long, but that wasn't the first time he's let that happen either, that I learned later. I saw us go from 4 locations down to 1. I saw us have, units and cars pile up in the garage. I saw us hiring younger, less experienced people because it was, I guess cheaper for him, and production slowed down. And all because, this individual, I consider him a mentor of mine. I've learned a lot from him. And this is one of those lessons that I learned just kind of experiencing and being around him. I saw how much of an impact 2 decisions had on his entire operation, because he, and this is the type of person he is. He did not want to, let them see that he needed them just as much as they needed him.
Do you feel like it was because he didn't want to show that as a weakness?
I think it's just because this individual is very methodical in how he does things, and he's been in business. He's been operating for a long time. But I think the other side of it, and he's changed. Like I still stay in contact with him. I know the growth he's gone through. The COVID, I think, forced everyone to go through a lot of growth, right?
In unexpected ways too.
In unexpected ways. So he moves different now. But I think at the time he got so big and was doing so well that he felt like, I don't need anybody. I can just replace him. I can just pay somebody else, to come in and do that job, and they'll happily take the money that I'm paying you right now, right? So I think it had more, honestly, I know it had a lot to do with his ego and just to the type of level he got to, and how much success he did find. I just think at the same time he overlooked how important the people that were part of the operation kind of helped him get there too. Yeah.
That situation, I feel like, happens a lot in business. You think like money just grows on trees, that the next person you reach out to, and for that situation or scenario was like a technician. Mm-hmm. You just think another technician with 20 years of experience and their own tools can do the same type of work. That technician's not in that season. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to bust his ass, or he doesn't even come with his own tools, or he's been doing shady work underneath an oak tree for the last 10. So
there's a lot of different variables.
There's variables
when it
right?
comes to people in general. You got somebody who might flip on a different set of incentives. You got somebody who has a different level of experience. You got somebody who's coming in with a different set of motives. Every person has those 3 in a different equation, I'll call it, right? Yeah. So the idea that you can just replace people, instantly, it sounds good in theory a lot of times, until you factor in how much time it takes to grow with somebody, how much time it takes to nurture somebody, and everybody's pace at learning is also different too. There's people that learn visually. There's people that learn through doing, right? There's people that need a combination of both in a very specific fashion in order to get better at, the task, or, get better at performing what they're actually doing. So, yeah.
And sometimes money's not even the motivator for some people.
For sure.
Right? Yeah, sometimes it's about their environment that they're working in, or the culture that they are part of, or maybe it's about the time, that is expected of them. Exactly. So you have to, if it's not you, it's got to be somebody. That's why, again, these large corporations, they exist, and they've existed for a long time for a reason, because they figured things out. And there are blueprints to grow really large businesses. I'm not saying any of us in this room, or maybe anyone watching this pod right now, should go and create a human resources department. But there is a reason why there is HR in these large corporations. There is a reason why there's these support, programs or staff. There's a reason why companies do like big outings and events, right? Because that number that pops up on your paycheck, or that you're being paid for your time or your experience, like if you're a contractor, right? It's not always the number one priority for someone, right? Like you mentioned, you could have a tech with 20 years of experience that they're not in that season of hustling these days, right? So maybe, the money's not as important to them. Maybe they just want to be in an environment that, values them and supports them. And maybe sometimes they'll even take less money, but they're not who they were 15 years ago, where they could hustle around a shop and work on 5 cars at the same time, right? So it's important to, there's a line you got to draw at a certain point, but you or somebody needs to understand or start trying to learn about the people that work for you, right? Again, especially if you are trying to go a long way. It goes back to what I said about me coming out to do business with, or me doing business with people. I like to get to know them first, even if that means me spending money to go and look them in the eye and see if they are really what they say they are, or are about what they claim to be about, right? Or if everything that I've seen online is just, fraudulent, right?
Or a facade.
Or a facade, right? I had to learn that, right? So I think it's important that when you're hiring people, you should have a process. Me, early on, I didn't have a process. I didn't. And I had to curate my process as I hired and fired more people. And then I feel like now I have a solid process. But there's more to hiring someone or people working for you than just the dollar you're willing to pay them for their time or service, right? You have to, and sometimes you're not going to hit the nail on the head. I've come across people where in the beginning, things are great the first 2-3 months. And then after that, sometimes you see their true colors and see maybe they're not exactly what how they present themselves. And it's going to happen. You're never going to know outright if this person, this hire is going to be the right one for your business, your company, or your partner, in anything, right? But you have to, again, it's all learning. It's learning. And then you mentioned, replacing and documenting your process. Like I felt like me personally, individually, I would have been a lot further ahead if I was documenting things more when I was doing them, right? If I was creating SOPs when it was just me working with clients. So that way, when I did train people or bring on new people, I already had a process, something, a standard or procedure that they can follow. But I didn't do that. And I had to learn the hard way. And it took me a while to learn too. That was a huge detriment personally, for my business, because I can find good people. I can find great people. But if I don't have a standard, a procedure, or again, a process for them to follow, I'm spending a lot of time being very hands-on with them, and it's taken away from the time that I was trying to create for myself to handle these other things. And then it just turns into chaos, right? So for the person that is starting to reach that level, again, I don't think if you just started and maybe you have a couple clients or you sold a couple products, I don't think you need to go and necessarily create full-on SOPs yet, because you're going to come across situations that's probably going to have you change things in that SOP. But you should be documenting what it is that you're doing. Record all of your calls, right? Any type of deliverable you give a client, make sure you have there's a copy or a mirror or just like a storage of that deliverable. Just try to document every step, because when the time comes that you do need to hire people, then it does make it, a little bit more streamlined and easier for you to create that SOP, to create that training program, to create whatever it is that you feel like you need to deliver to someone to help, duplicate yourself, which is, we already touched on it. It's kind of near impossible to do because we're not, or just delegate, right? Otherwise, you're going to have a very hard time finding people, good people, and keeping good people, especially A-type players. Yeah. I had a conversation recently with my sales manager, and she literally said, you're not going to, one, it's hard to pull an A player from another company, but if you bring in an A player and that A player doesn't have a structured understanding of your business, your product, your service, whatever, maybe we were talking about a sales, like a sales person at that time, right? And there's just no structure. They're not going to stay, no matter how much money you can pay them, because they already see, a disorganized, chaotic environment, and they probably have enough experience to understand that this is probably not going to be the right opportunity for me. I need to, probably move on. And then you lose that person just as fast as you got them. You know what I mean? Yeah,
which is even worse at the end of the day. Let's talk about the good stuff, man. Well, how about this? Let me put a spin on this. We'll talk about the good part of a business, which is making money. But let's talk about the negative part that comes with making money. Obviously, in our industry, for us, something that we had to kind of overcome is finding a payment processor or a merchant account, right, to actually be able to receive money and send invoices. But when those happen and you're dealing with the people, like what we said, dealing with the public, people are unhappy, right? They don't feel like they got the service that they paid for, or they don't think that, I think you said it earlier, someone said a timeline, that we didn't give them exactly what they thought initially they were going to get. Again, did you guys accomplish it? Yes, but he was unhappy. So those situations do come, and those situations do come with a lot of chargebacks, and companies or business owners or entrepreneurs aren't used to it, or when the first one happens, they don't know how to address it or how to overcome it. Because I want you guys to understand, these things are going to happen. Everything that we spoke about today is going to happen. You may not have been there yet. Hopefully, though, when they do come and arise for you, you kind of know how to address them because we've spoken about it. But I remember when I got my very first chargeback, and what really hit me was the chargeback, I already spent the money. So I was like double shot in the foot. You know what I mean? Because I was like, cool, I did this product and this service, money was received, that person's happy, that person did a chargeback later. And what that means is the bank still refunded their money. That money was already gone. So I lost twice in my head, right? And that was something that I really had to overcome. And then I was just kind of like, it took me into like hermit crab mode, where I was just like every single thing dialed in, penny, dollar amount, who am I paying, what is happening, is it in it? I spiraled, right? And I was probably in that season, dude, for like a full quarter because of that very first chargeback. But I did it to myself because I spent the money. So again, I lost 2 times to me. And I want to be able to address it for whatever experiences you guys have had, but how did you handle it? But also for that viewer out there who hasn't maybe had it yet or has had it, and how did you guys address that or acknowledge it? Like, there's going to be sunshine after the rain type of situation that I wish I had, instead of me boxing myself in for 4 months and like, dude, you got to chill. You're running a business here. Things happen. You know what I mean? Now I know flow, but when I started, I didn't have that at all. I didn't have that type of guidance. So I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on that, because it's inevitable, dude.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll give you 2 things, and one of them I've curated over the years. The other one Lamar is going to be able to expand on more. So one, setting proper expectations with everything that you do in your company on the front end, right? If you have a well-documented process, if you have an organized process, we're not really coming into business oftentimes being good at handling things like paperwork, finances, filing stuff, keeping things in order. And part of that is because it's our responsibility to do so. And if we've never done that before, there's really nobody over your shoulder saying, hey, make sure you have this organized, make sure you have, this filed correctly, and make sure the service agreement matches the exact name that somebody's going to see in their bank account, little things like that, right?
That was fire.
Just about everybody who comes into business, they come into business without factoring those very important key details in, especially people who are not, being led by a mentor, guru, coach, whatever. So unfortunately, for a lot of people that come into business and are newer, those are things that we learn ourselves, right? We don't really have a lot of guidance with that. What I can tell you is one of the best things that you can do to prevent being in those situations is, 1, staying organized, which again, Lamar can elaborate on, and then 2, setting proper expectations on the front end when you're actually speaking to people, right? Here's how your process is going to go, right? Here are some things that you can expect to see during this process. The way that you onboard and the way that process is documented, that's probably one of the most important key details that you would need to make sure is properly done if you ever wanted to defend yourself against, a potential chargeback or a refund. And then again, just keeping, a proper trail of all that stuff as well.
So for that instance, in that example, do you go after that person? Do you try to call them and get them back on the hook and like, hey, what did I do wrong? What did I not accomplish for you? Why am I seeing this charge back? Or do you send it legal? You know what I mean? Do you go to mediation and do you try to let your lawyers handle it? How would you deal with that situation?
So I don't think there's a one answer that solves every single scenario. I think it's very situational because there's typically variables to differentiate depending on how everything went down, right? Sometimes, somebody might file a chargeback and they might block you. So you have no way to contact them, right? Other people, they might be a little bit more malleable and they may have asked you, they may have requested a refund before that. They may have expressed that they weren't satisfied with the way that the service went. Or maybe there were some things that happened, during their time with your company that didn't meet their expectations, right? I think those situations are obviously a lot easier to work with as opposed to somebody who just went through 3 rounds of disputes, got a bunch of stuff removed, and then all of a sudden they still charge back, right? Because there are people like that are out there too.
So you're open to re-engagement and trying to fix said situation and scenario.
Yeah, I mean, communication solves everything. If you felt like you had to do that, there may be a gap in what you expected and what the reality of the situation is. Let me see if there is a gap. If there isn't a gap and I actually did everything that I was supposed to do and you're just acting out of spite, then let me at least find out so that I can know which way I need to maneuver it. And if I did something wrong and I've overlooked it, I'm also open to doing that too. I think that's probably the most uncomfortable situation because I messed up. But if that is what happened, then, let me go ahead and make that known, or let you make that known to me and let me be accountable for that.
And then there was one other thing that you said was, let's say you take a client through 3 rounds of disputes, they get a lot of items removed and they still choose to give you a chargeback. So that's that person just being shady, right? Like stealing an item, wearing it, bringing it back, and then, you know what I mean? Like, there's people that go to those extent. We're in this day and time in this era, bro. You know what I mean? There's literally TikTok trends of like how to get away with things.
Yeah.
These things arise. How do you eat that and internalize that? Because that's, excuse my French, dude, that shit sucks, bro. Because we know the value, right, of fixing someone's credit report and literally, and you can't honestly put a dollar amount on changing someone's life. We happen to do it, but you can't actually do it, right? But when that situation, like let's say, dude, in rounds 1, 12 items removed, 12 items removed, 12 items removed, 36 items removed, and they still hit you with the chargeback, they get to go out there now with a 750 credit score and like, gotcha.
They think they do.
Yeah. How do you internalize and deal with that situation? Because I need the viewer to know, like, these things happen. You know what I mean? And I just want to try to give out, like, little sparks in their heads or alarms and, like, oh, I think I've seen something like that. Like, let me go back and try to find it. Hopefully you guys remember it's the Double Down Podcast. But how do you do that?
So I want to touch on that. I wanted to look up some stats because I knew these numbers, but I wanted to make sure I quoted it properly, right? So in 2024, globally, there was $132 billion in chargebacks filed across the world, okay? In 2024, 11 billion of that came from the U.S. alone, okay? So 10% of the world's chargeback transactions came from the U.S. There was a study done in 2024. 26% of consumers admitted to first-party consumer fraud. What is first-party consumer fraud? That is basically someone falsely filing a chargeback. They got the service or product that they paid for, but they went and filed a chargeback anyway.
1 in every 4.
1 in every 4 person admitted to that. And that's admitted to, right? And I like to think people do anonymous surveys, honestly. I mean, it's anonymous. Why not? Sure. Right?
So it's really 3 out of 4.
Yeah, probably more. Probably more than that. Yeah. So I pull those numbers up to say that a chargeback is going to happen, especially, the longer you're in business, you're going to probably deal with it at some point or later. No one has a perfect record, no chargebacks, no bad reviews, no testimonials. Like, if someone does, then I don't know. They're
too small, bro.
Nah, come on, say what it is. They pay some big money to scrub the internet of the negatives, right?
Good point. Yeah.
So to answer your question, and to touch on, he said, yes, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Can you try to reach out to that customer and solve the problem through communication and figure out, hey, what happened? Yeah, and you should absolutely do that one way or another. There are certain ways to do that. You should do them through formal channels, so I'm going to say email, because email is a place of formal documentation. Don't go texting somebody and say, hey, like, you're taking advantage of the service. I provided this. You're committing fraud. You followed this chargeback. I delivered. Like, don't do that. Don't have an emotional reaction, and don't take it over text message, because more than likely they're not going to respond to you because they already think that in their mind that they won, because of how chargebacks work. When you file that chargeback and the bank processes the chargeback, you get your money back, or your money's back available on your credit card.
Especially if you're using a credit card. Debit cards, they take a little bit longer, but somebody filing a chargeback and they paid with a credit card, like they see that available.
That's immediately available, right? So in their mind, they've already won, right? They don't understand what happens on the other side with us vendors.
The investigation that comes, after that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not gonna, because that's a topic I could dive into, deep. But one, you should try to reach into.
We'll touch it.
That's one, you should try to communicate with them and figure out, hey, what's going on? Is there something that you're confused about? Do you feel like that I didn't deliver on the service? Like, come in a very formal way, in a professional manner, and try to resolve the issue. The other side of that is, what I will tell anyone watching this when that does happen is, that chargeback has already been filed, and can a consumer go and withdraw it from their bank? Yes, but you have no way of like checking and making sure that they actually did do that. So even if you do solve it with them, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that this charge was the money I was paying you, and that came down to a processor, the statement descriptor being wrong, right? There's a lot of processing companies out there. It's very important that when you are picking a processing company, you understand the service and product that they are delivering, because some processors don't state your company in people's statements. They state their company. And it's real easy for someone to think, oh, I don't recognize this charge. Oh, I got charged 3 times.
Or it could be the name of a company, which is like a DBA, and then the actual name that gets shown on that statement is the entity name or something like that, right?
Yeah, right. So in their mind, they are disputing what they thought is a fraudulent payment until you reach out to them and you say, hey, like, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was you. It said this. It's not Double Down Podcast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so sorry. And then, so again, you should reach out, right? Because there are times that situation does happen, and then there's other lessons that you're going to have to learn from that, past that. As far as preparing for it, like Kevin said, you need to have clear, documented process. Your invoice or payment that you're sending to someone, it needs to have the name of the product or service, and it needs to break down. I mean, you don't have to put a whole paragraph, but are they paying for? What's the product description, right? You go to these stores, or you go to these big, again, you buy stuff on Amazon, all right? Product description, 2 pages long, right? Not going to show up on your receipt and your account.
Yeah, but you generally have to scroll past that to at least hit buy now or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's there for a reason. So if you clearly identify what product or service you are selling to that person, and that's going to help you a lot when that situation does arise. If you have, clear contracts and agreements and people sign those, that is going to help you when those situations arise. But I'm going to drop a little sauce on this in regards to contracts, because a lot of people in business, or vendors, or even new people coming up, or paying people for mentorship, consulting, coaching, and they're learning these things from their coach. You got to have an agreement, a solid ironclad agreement, and that agreement needs to say they can't file any chargebacks. That'll protect you.
Doesn't help you as much as you think it does.
Not only does it help you, but it's illegal. And here's why it's illegal. You cannot deny a consumer the right to file a chargeback. That is actually something that all of us have a right to. You can't take that right away from somebody by putting it on an agreement. Now, if you ask a lawyer to write this agreement for you, they're going to, more than likely, if they're good, tell you, hey, you can't say these certain things. But at the end of the day, an attorney or a lawyer drafting something for you, especially if it's a one-off, they're going to draft whatever that you ask them to. They are not liable for whatever is on that agreement that someone hired them to draft. They're supposed to let you know certain things like, you can't really do this, or you shouldn't say this. But if you tell them put that on an agreement, they will put it on an agreement for you. And in your mind, oh, well, I got it from my attorney, my lawyer. This is going to help me when this situation arises.
Covered.
That's not true. And sometimes, hey, lawyers might specialize. You might have a family lawyer that specializes in social cases that you're, asking to draft a
financial
agreement. You think that they know from A to Z a card network's terms and services and policies? Probably not. Right? And most of us don't. I didn't know these things until a year and a half ago either. But a contract that has that clause, one, is not going to help you, protect you. It might scare that consumer, but if they file it, that's not going to help you, because they have a right to file a chargeback. It's within these card networks' terms and conditions. You have to be the one to prove that, whatever dispute that they have is not true, illegitimate, or they're taking advantage of the system. The second thing about contracts, and this is not even just about chargebacks, but for anybody, you're getting in business, you're selling, you start to get to the point you're selling something, that's high dollar, that you feel like you should probably have a contract. A contract is only as strong or as good as the person that's willing to enforce the contract, right? So you ask, do you go to litigation? Do you take someone to court? Maybe. Can you afford to take them to court? Can you afford to hire a lawyer to enforce your agreement? Did that agreement that you have people signing get drafted by someone else, and now you're hiring another lawyer to come in and enforce it? Did you have ChatGPT draft the agreement, and now you're hiring a lawyer to come in and try and enforce it, right? Lawyers these days cost anywhere, depends, $350 to $550 an hour, and that's for a junior associate. Wow. That's not for your guy that runs the firm, right? That guy's gonna cost
commercial.
Yeah, the guy, on the billboards.
Yeah.
Right?
Also,
I'm not getting him. Okay.
All right, dang, how much is? Oh, okay, yeah, I'll work with him. All right, so that's one thing, and two, is it even worth it? If someone's charging $5,000 for credit repair, just the product that came up, and someone filed a chargeback on you, then hey, honestly, I mean, I don't know. There's people go about their business in a different way, so actually, I'm gonna roll back on that. But what I will say is it even worth it, right? Because it's gonna cost you a lot of money to hire representation, to review whatever your case is, and then to file, to take someone to court for a civil suit. And this is a civil suit. Right. You have to go to court, hours. Before you know it, before a decision even comes down, you probably already spent more money than what the chargeback was even for, right? And then let's say you do win. Does that person, can you even collect? Right. Like what you think the court's going to go and draw money out of their account and then give it to you?
No. They already spent the money. They got back to
You're not a financial institution.
Right.
Like, if it was a financial institution or a governing body, they come in and garnish your wages, but that's not how it works with civil suits. Yep. So you have to, again, a lot of people have to think about, what really matters to them. And I say all the time, you want to try and prevent these situations. Clear communication, clear guidelines, clear product delivery, clear expectations, documented process. If you're doing all of those things the right way, not only will you have less chargebacks, but if they do come, you might have a better chance of even winning or overcoming them, where you don't have to even have the thought process of taking someone to court. And depending on what states your clients live in, you might not even be able to do much anyways. And I learned that the hard way.
Then I knew that this one was going to be a touchy one, right? Like we've already kind of set it up at the very beginning. Like I didn't want the new entrepreneur or business owner to share this episode with their mentor, especially after they've already paid it, because they're like, how come you didn't break this down to me like this? Or how come you didn't speak to me like this? But that's why I wanted this conversation to have. And I think you touched on it earlier, Kevin, like it's been necessary and it should have happened a long time ago. I think people are just, it's weird because people are like, share everything, give away everything. Like Hormozi is huge on give away everything. And then when that customer finally does come to you, when you give them an offer, they're going to buy because you've given them so much value for so many hours.
Theory.
It's a theory. That's exactly what it is.
Theory only works for a certain demographic, and you have to be
very small.
You have to be a very, specific staple. Yeah. In order for something like that to work well for you, like Hormozi giving something for free is not going to go the same way as me doing it. Right. And I could say in theory that, I'd want to overpack something with value. Let's call that like a digital product, for example, maybe like an ebook, and blast it out to 100 people. And me thinking, if they see that I gave them this much value for free, they'd definitely be willing to pay for my, $1,000 inner circle or something like that, right? When in reality, what happens a lot of times, and we don't realize this, is you just literally gifted them a sense of entitlement. You gave me this much for free, and now I want this.
And they didn't even read that.
You give them an inch, and they take a mile.
I'm gonna be real with you.
Yeah.
If you give them something for free, 100 people,
and it's good,
I want you to ask them, poll them. You know what I mean? Like ask on your story, how many people that I sent this 100 people this PDF to, right? How many people actually read it? But you're like one person is like.
That's because people don't value free shit.
That was where I was trying to go with this.
Yeah.
So this theory that you called it of give away everything for free, it's not real. It's like you said, only the very, very, very select few can get away with this. But we pulled that shit off today. I feel like we were able to hit on so many different things that an entrepreneur and a business owner may have not expected to go through, or that is even fearful, and this is the ones I really do hope that we help, is the ones who are fearful and have something great to give the world, but they're like those people who have like anxiety or just fear the unknown. And because no one has delivered the sauce like this or packaged it up in a way where it's so much free game for them, they're like, I feel confident enough to go and do this because I know that this is going to come, this is going to come, and this is going to come. And I may not handle it how Kevin did or Lamar did or DeAndre did, but I have a starting point. That's what I think that this episode right here was for. And we unpacked situations that are going to arise for everybody, every walk of life. Yes, we deal with financial space, but it's going to hit home for any business. It doesn't matter.
Business is business.
Business is business.
Yeah. Christmas is Christmas.
Christmas is Christmas.
I will say this though, man, and I think this would be good to give out as like a little short closing message for me. This is going to sound kind of cliche, and I don't use this as an acronym, but I want to use it now. Fear, somebody told me, is false evidence appearing real, is what it stands for, right? It's not necessarily that you're scared of something. That's just the first word that comes to mind. The reality is it's just unknown to you. That's really what it is. And a lot of times we have a natural tendency to be intimidated by what we don't understand. And if we don't know where to find the answers, if we have no indication of how it is that we could even figure that out, then yes, it becomes scary to us. But if anything, it's just that it's unknown to you. There's nothing that I don't really believe there's anything that I can do. And I carry that with myself because the people that I keep around me, they carry it with themselves as well. And even if it's something that we need to figure out and we struggle on figuring it out, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we're going down the right road.
All right. That's how you leave it off. So please, gentlemen, let them both know how they can reach with you, work with you, or maybe become partners, right? Or have something of value to add to you guys and improve you. This is your guys' lens right here. Let them know how they can reach out to you guys. Appreciate you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I want to add too, don't be, if you want to, again, another cliche thing. We've been dropping cliches, but there's a reason why people say these things. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, right? Don't get so caught up in trying to be, do that lone wolf thing that it, holds you back and prevents you from going further by working and collaborating with other people. Don't let your ego get in the way of listening to people that have gone through things that you haven't gone through yet, right? And allow them to share this value and these experiences with you, and not only take it in, but implement or execute on it, or just allow it to prepare yourself when these situations arise, right? I wouldn't be where I am today without the people that I've come across and the people that I've worked with and the experiences and lessons I've learned and gained, or even having the support that I have from other like-minded individuals that understand that, hey, if we want to do something great, let's do it together, right? So, but with that being said, Lamar Hale, you can find me on Instagram at Lamar Hale. You can find me on Twitter at Lamar Hale. You can find me on YouTube at Lamar Hale. It's just my name, guys. I'm not real big on titles, right? I'm just someone that if you got a problem or you don't know how to do something, I more than likely have a solution. And if I don't have a solution, I know somebody that does. So.
Good conversation, man. Kevin Araujo at Organic Papito on Instagram. I'll give you what you need.
Organic Papito, that's for real, bro. I need the people to realize. I need the people to realize, just so they know, we'll end it, but that's how I was introduced to you as well. There's like
people literally, I kid you not.
Organic Papito.
There's people that call me Organic as if it's like a first name. And they meet me and I introduce myself properly because I have a name. It's Kevin.
Yeah.
And then they say, you know what? Out of respect, I know what your name is, but I'd rather call you this.
Organic.
That's how I know you. That's how I came across you.
So it's Organic, first name, last name, Papito.
Pretty much.
That's crazy. I'm not going to lie. There's no need to lie. I keep it real. In my phone, your name is Organic Papito. It's not too different. It's not first and last. It's one name.
I'm not mad at that, yo.
Just so everyone knows.
Not the first. I'll give you that.
Bro, that's how I was introduced to you. So I was like, all right, bet. That's how he wants to be known. Like I meet, obviously, a lot of people and like, oh, you'll call me Red, call me Blue. Okay, that's what I'm going to call you.
I wouldn't call it like a personal brand kind of thing, but it kind of became like a bit of an alias. And when I realized that, like a year and a half ago, I started planning an even bigger one for when I turned 30. So shout out to when I turn 30 in a couple of years.
Shout out.
That's going to be pretty big.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Dirty 30
And
organic
papito. Don't
Yeah.
forget that.
No longer organic papito. At
It's gonna
30.
be a hell of a rebrand.
That's what's up. Man, this one I honestly do really appreciate you guys, because I know this could have gone left, right? We can put ourselves in a situation where like now people look at us and they're like, what the hell did you guys do this for? You kind of dropped a bomb, right? Or you shared insights that people are really charging out here for. So we could disrupt, and I hope that we did, but I hope that we disrupted in the right area, right? And in the right facet. And if people get pissed off about it, whatever, they know how to find organic papito.
I'm open to this being the beginning of a series too, man.
No, for real. There's obviously more. We've dealt with different situations. We can't touch everything in one single sit down.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely open for episode 2, episode 3, whenever you guys have time.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you
for coming.
Same here, man.
Allowing us
For
to
real.
come on. Yeah.
For real. And for you guys out there, man, I hope that you guys were truly able to take something. And if it wasn't even able to affect you, you know someone, a friend or a family member, that this episode can help them, please like, share, subscribe it, and send it to them, because there was a lot of gems and information given in this episode that I know people are struggling with. I know I could have used this when I very first started. So I know that this episode is helpful. And I just want you guys always to remember, if there's a dream, if there's an obstacle, or there's something in your life that you want to overcome and no one else believes in it, I want you to double down on it. If there's something in your life that you think that you know you're great at, and then you try to explain it to everybody else and they can't seem to wrap their head around it, that's okay. That's because the dream was given to you. It wasn't given to them. Double down on it. And that was today's episode of the Double Down Podcast.